بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. This is the second major of Math 101, Term 221. Let us solve it together. So the first question, find the inverse of this matrix. And it's a 2 by 2 matrix, so we know that there is a formula to find A inverse. It is 1 over, we multiply 2 times 1, which is 2, minus negative 3 times 4, which is negative 12. And then for the matrix, 2 and 1, we change their positions. So we replace 1 by 2 and 2 by 1. And negative 3, 4, we change their signs. So this would be negative 4, and this would be 3. So you can just write it 2 plus 12, that's 14. Either you leave it like this, that's the inverse matrix, or if you like, you can multiply by 1 over 14. So it would be 1 over 14, 3 over 14, negative 4 over 14, or you write it negative 2 over 7, and 2 over 14. Both are correct. This answer and this answer are both correct. Find x, y, and z if these two, if you have this equation, matrix equation. Well, for matrix equations, for two matrices to be equal, we first need to subtract these two matrices in the left-hand side. So I will have x minus 3 times 4x. That's x minus 12x, which is negative 11x. Okay. And here 1 minus 3 times negative 15, that's 1 plus 15, which is 16. Here I have 2y minus 27y. So 2 minus 27 is negative 25. And z minus 3 times 3z, so z minus 9z, 1 minus 9, that's negative 8z. So this is the left-hand side after we added and simplified the two matrices in the left-hand side. This matrix should be equal to 22, 16, 25, and 24z minus 32. So for these two matrices to be equal, negative 11x has to equal to 22. 16, you can see, there is 16 here and 16 here. So it means that everything is fine. So negative 11x equals 22. So how to find x? I divide by negative 11. 22 over negative 11 is negative 2. So this is the value of x. And then I have negative 25y should equal to 25. So y would be equal to 25 over negative 25, that's negative 1. And finally, negative 8z is equal to 24z minus 32. To solve this equation, I take the variables in one side and the numbers in one side. So let us take 24 to the other side. So it would be negative 24, and I have negative 8. Negative 8 minus 24, that's negative 32z. And the right-hand side, we have negative 32. So z would be negative 32 over negative 32, which is 1. So these are the values of x, y, and z. Solve the following system using Gauss method. It's called Gaussian elimination. So for Gaussian elimination, the first step is to write the augmented matrix, in which here you write the variables of x in each equation. So the coefficient of x in the first equation is 1, in the second equation is 1, in the third equation is 3. Then you write the coefficients of y in the first, in the second, and in the third, and then the coefficients of z 3 in the first, -1 in the second, 4 in the third. If there is no z, you can just put the coefficient as 0. And then we write the right-hand side here, -4, 1, and -1. Of course, you don't have to write these x, y, z here, but just for sake of illustration. Now, the first step, this number has to be 1. So it is 1, that's good. Now I need to use it to make these two numbers zeros. So how to do that? Negative, I multiply the first row R1 by -1, and I add it to row 2. Okay, this will make this one 0. Also 3, I can make it 0 by multiplying -3 times row 1 plus row 3. So I use row 1, this number 1, I use it to make these two numbers zeros, and then I will get a new matrix. The first row is not going to change as it is, but I'm changing the second row and the third row. So let us do this transformation. This is 1, so when you multiply by -1, -1 times 1 is -1 plus 1, so you will get 0. -1 times -3, that's 3 plus 2 is 5. -1 times 3, that's -3 plus -1, that's -4. -1 times -4 is 4 plus 1, that's 5. The second transformation, -3 times 1 is -3 plus 3, you have 0. -3 times -3, that's 9 plus 2, you have 11. -3 times 3, -9 plus 4, that's -5. And -3 times -4 is 12 minus 1, that's 11. And now I finished from the first column. The first column should be 1, 0, 0. That's excellent. Now I go to the second column, and this number has to be 1. I have to make it 1. Well, how to make it 1? I can either use the third row, or I just divide, but it is not easy to use the third row here. So I'll just divide by 5. So I say row 2 should be divided by 5. Now the new matrix will be the first row as it is. The second row will be 0, 1, -4 over 5, and 5 over 5 is also 1. And the third row as it is. Now, I made this number 1. In the Gaussian elimination method, I use this 1 now to make the number below it 0. In the Gauss and Joule, make them zeros. So let me use 1 to make 11 0. How to do that? I multiply 1 by -11 because this is 11. So -11 are 2 this time plus r 3. Now the new matrix will be, there is no change in the first row. In the second row also there is no change. And here I will have the following. -11 times 0 is 0 plus 0, so I have 0. -11 times 1 plus 11, that's 0. Also here, -11 times 1 plus 11, that's 0. And -11 times -4 over 5, I can use the calculator here. This is 44 over 5 minus 5, so I will get 19 over 5. So I'll have 19 over 5 here. And now I finished from the second row, 1, 0. That's excellent. Now the third step is to make 19 over 5, 1. So I will multiply row 3 by 5 over 19. So by this, I will reach the form which called, it has a name, echelon form. I reach this form here 1 and here 0 because 0 times 5 over 19. So that's the final form we need to get to 1, 1, 1 in the main diagonal, zeros below that. So now I can go back and write all the equations. Remember, this is x, y, z. So I have here x and y iz. So I can write the first equation as x, the coefficient of x is 1, so x minus 3 times y, 3 plus 3 times z equals -4. And the second equation, there is no x because 0, 0 times x is 0, so 1 times y, that's y, minus 4 over 5z is 1. And the third equation, x times 0, y times 0, z times 1, so I have z equals to 0. So always you will get the value of the third variable, which is z. And then you use a method called back substitution. You go back, you put z in the second equation 0, so you get y minus 0 equals 1, so in fact y equals 1. And then you go back to the first equation and you replace y by 1 and z by 0. So I'll have x minus 3 times 1 is -3, plus 3 times 0 is 0, so there is no need to write plus 0, equals -4. And then x would be -4, take -3 to the other side, so -4 plus 3, that's -1. So the solution set of the system would be the point or the triple, x is -1, y is 1, z is 0. And you know you can solve this by the calculator, so you can put the system in the calculator and check that your answer is correct. Which investment will earn more money? We have two plans, $1,000 investment for 5 years at 8% compounded semi-annually. Well, the formula for compounded semi-annually or annually or whatever is S, and that's the future value, equals P, which is the present value, times 1 plus R, which is the rate per year, over M, this is the number of compounded times, to the power M times T. T is the number of years. So in this question, a 1,000 investment, this means that P is 1,000, the present value. 5 years, for 5 years, this means that T, the number of years, is 5. At 8%, so R is 0.08. We write R in decimal like this. We divide 8 over 100, so it's 0.08. And compounded semi-annually means twice a year. So this means that M is 2. So S would be equal to B is 1,000 times 1 plus R is 0.08 over 2 to the power M is 2, T is 5, and you can just put this in the calculator and write the answer. You will find that the answer is 1,480.244. In B, the question is, or the plan is, to invest the same amount, 1,000, so P is 1,000, for 5 years, so T is 5 again, but compounded continuously. Compounded continuously, the formula is not the same. The formula is S equals P times E to the power RT. So P is 1,000, E is the number E, 2.7, R is 0.08, and T is 5. Okay. For 5 years, compounded continuously. Of course, here he has to say that R is 0.08. He did not say in the question. And you put it in the calculator and find that the answer is 1,491.824. The question, which investment will earn more money? So I can say that investment B will earn more money. So that's the answer. Use the Simplex method to maximize this function subject to these constraints. So to use Simplex method, we first change the inequalities into equations. So I write 2x plus 4y. I introduce a slack variable called S1, and I make less than or equal. I make it equal, in this case, 120. S1 is a positive number, so this is how to change the inequality to an equation. Also, the second one, I have 2x plus 2y. I introduce another slack variable. Let us call it S2 equals to 80. Okay. For this equation, the objective function, I take everything to the left-hand side. So when 3x comes to the left-hand side, it would be negative 3x, negative 4y plus z equals 0. There will be nothing in the right-hand side. So now these three equations, I put them in the initial tableau. I put the coefficients of x, so I have 2, and I have negative 3. I put the coefficients of y, so I have 4, 2, and negative 4. I put the coefficients of S1. Well, S1 appears only in the first equation. It has coefficient 1. In the second equation, there is no S1, so 0. In the third equation, there is no S1, so I have also 0. For S2, in the first equation, there is no S2. In the second equation, the coefficient is 1. There is no S2 in the third equation. And then Z, the variable Z. Well, in the first equation, there is no Z here. And the coefficient of Z in the last equation is 1. I put a horizontal line here, a vertical line here, and I write the numbers in the right-hand side here. So I have 120, I have 80, and here 0. This is called the initial Simplex tableau. And then we do a pivot operation. And to do a pivot operation, we try to find the pivot elements. And to find the pivot elements, we first look to the last row here, the entries of the last row. The most negative number is negative 4. Negative 4 is less than negative 3. So I choose this column. This would be the pivot column. And then I start dividing the right-hand side by the numbers in this column. So 120 divided by 4, that's 30. And 80 divided by 2, that's 40. Which is smaller? 30 is smaller, so 4 is the pivot element. Once I determine the pivot element, I need to make it, this number has to be 1, and all the numbers below has to be 0. So to do that, I first divide the first row by 4. So I will have 2 divided by 4, that's half. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 1 divided by 4, 0, 0. 120 divided by 4 is 30. The second line, as it is, 2, 2, 0, 1, 0, 80, and negative 3, negative 4, 0, 0, 1, 0. Now we need to use this one to change 2 and negative 4 to zeros. So negative 2R1 plus R2. So I will get now to the second matrix. The first row is not changing. And the second row will change. Negative 2, let me write the transformation, negative 2R1 plus R2 and 4R1 plus R3 to change negative 4 to 0. So negative 2 times half, negative 1 plus 2, that's 1. Negative 2 times 1 plus 2, that's 0. Negative 2 times 1 over 4, that's negative half plus 0. So I have here negative 1 over 2. Negative 2 times 0 is 0 plus 1. Negative 2 times 0 is 0 plus 0. So in fact, when you have zeros, it doesn't change the numbers below. Negative 2 times 30 is negative 60 plus 80, that's 20. And then the last row, and 4 times half is 2, minus 3 is negative 1. 4 times 1 minus 4 is 0. 4 times 1 over 4 is 1 plus 0, 1. And here I'll have 0, 1 because these are zeros. 4 times 30 is 120 plus 0, that's 120. Now, is this a final tableau? The answer is no, because there is a negative 1 here. So this still here, this is a pivot column. To determine where is the pivot element, is it half or 1? I divide 30 by half. When I divide 30 by half, I get 60. And when I divide 20 by 1, I get 20. Which is smaller? 20. So this number would be the pivot element. I need to make it 1. It is already 1. So I need to use it to make negative 1 and half zeros. How to do that? Negative half R2 plus R1 will make half 0, and R2 plus R3 will make this one 0. So now I will get the final tableau. The first tableau, the first line will change. So let us do it. Negative half plus half, that's 0. 0, so we have 1 here. Negative half times negative half, 1 over 4 plus 1 over 4, that's 1 over 2. Negative half plus 1, that's negative half plus 0, sorry, negative half times 1 plus 0 is negative half. Then negative half times 0 plus 0 is just 0. Negative half times 20, that's negative 10 plus 30, that's 20. And the second row as it is without any change. And the last row would be, we just add 1 minus 1, 0, 0 plus 0 is 0, negative half plus 1 is half, 1 plus 0 is 1, 0 plus 1 is 1, 20 plus 1, 20 is 140. And now this is a final tableau, okay, because no negative numbers here. So this is X, remember, and this is Y. Now, these are called basic variables in which we have 1 and zeros everywhere. So these are basic variables. S1 and S2 here are non-basic. So we put them zeros. We do not pay attention to them. We look here to Y only. This is 1 coefficient of Y. So what do you get from here? 1 times Y equals what? 20. So Y equals 20. And here, 1 times X equals what? 20. So X is also 20. What about these two numbers? S1 and S2, we put them zeros to find the final answer. And this one, what do we have here? We have Z. This is Z, okay? These two numbers will be zeros. We will cancel S1 and S2. So I will have Z equals to 140. And that's the maximum value of Z. The maximum of Z is 140 at X equals 20 and Y equals 20. This would be the answer of the problem, and you can check that it's okay, nothing wrong. If you multiply X 3 times 20, that's 60, 4 times 20, that's 80, 80 plus 60 is 140, so it seems that everything is fine, and that's the solution of the problem. Find the principal needed now, so that's P, to get $600, so that's the future value. After 2 years, so that's T, at 4%, so that's R.04, compounded quarterly, so that's M. M in this case is 4. Quarterly means 4 times a year. So the formula, as we just wrote 3 minutes ago, S is P times 1 plus R over M to the power M times T. So in this question, S is given, which is 600, P is needed, and we have 1 plus R, which is 0.04 over M, which is 4 to the power M, which is 4 times T, which is 2. And you can find the answer directly by the calculator. Divide 600 by this number, okay, all of this number. Evaluate this and then divide 600 by the answer. and the correct answer in this case will be 554.1 if you want to put dollars here. So this is the principal needed now to get 600 after 2 years under these conditions. If a bank pays 200, so that's R is 0.02, compounded continuously, so the formula is S equals PERT. How much should be deposited now? So he is asking about P again to have 10,000. So $10,000 is S is the future value after 5 years. So R is 0.02 and T is 5. And again, you can find P by 10,000 over this number, evaluate by the calculator and check that the number in dollar is 9048.4. So this is the money needed now to be deposited to get 10,000 in 5 years continuously. The last question, consider this system and graph the inequalities and locate the solution set. Determine the corners solution set. Okay, so let us graph the inequality. Since x is greater than or equal to 0, y is greater than or equal to 0, so I can say that this is my x axis and this is my y axis. Okay. Let me start by the first inequality. I have x plus 4y. Well, to graph the inequality, we first graph the equation. And the graph of the equation is a straight line. And to graph a straight line, the best way is to replace x by 0, and you solve for y. So 4y would be 60, y would be 60 over 4, which is 15. This is the first point, 0, 15. And the second point, you put y 0, then you get x equals 60. The numbers are large, so I'll go 10 by 10. I need 60, 0. So this is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So this is 60. So this is the point 60, 0. 0, 15, if this is 10, this is 20. So 15 would be in the middle. And the graph of the line just connect these 2 points. I need to be more accurate. Let me start from here. Okay, please accept this graph. Okay, good. And of course you can continue, but this is the important region for us because x is greater than 0 and y is greater than 0. So we only in the first quadrant, graphing in the first quadrant. Now this is the graph of the line, x plus 4y equals 60. But what is the graph of the inequality? The graph of the inequality would be either the half plane above the line or the half plane below the line. To determine which half plane it is, I choose a point. Usually, if 0, 0 is not on the line, it's a nice point to choose. So if I choose 0, 0 and replace it in the original inequality here, so 0 plus 4 times 0 will give you 0. This would be less than or equal to 60. You check now whether this statement is true or false. It's a true statement. This means that 0, 0 belongs to the answer of the inequality. So this means that the graph of the inequality is below this line. So all of this region, but since x is greater than 0 and y is greater than 0, so this triangle now is my solution up to now. I do the same for the second inequality. I write it as a line, 4x plus 2y equals 100. I draw the line by choosing x 0, 2y 100 means y is 50. then putting y 0 for x 100 means x is 25. So 0, 50, y is 50, 20, 30, 40, this is 50. So this is, okay, 50. This is the point 0, 50. 25, 0, this is 20, so 25, 0 is here. And now I need to connect these 2 points. This is the graph of the second line. Excuse my graph. So the line here is 4x plus 2y equals 100, okay? Now, where this is the graph of the line, but what is the graph of the inequality? Is it the plane, the half of plane to up above the line or below the line? To find out, let us choose again 0, 0, because 0, 0 belongs to one of the halves. Replace x by 0, so I'll have 4 times 0 plus 2 times 0, that's 0, less than or equal to 100. Is this correct? Yes, 0 is actually less than 100. So the solution is here, below this line. And now to determine the solution set, you need to select the region in which all of these conditions are satisfied. So below this line, so it should be here. To the left of this line, it should be here. So in fact, it is this region. This is the region, okay? This is the solution set. You can say SS, that's the solution set. So this is the answer of part A. Now what is the answer of part B? In part B, he needs to determine the corners, the corner solution set, the corner points of this region. What are the corner points? Notice that we don't have an objective function to solve the system, but only give me the corner points. So you can see that we have actually 4 corner points here, this point and corner points are, first corner point is 0, 0. And you can also read this point easily because this number was 25, if you remember. So 25 and 0, this is the second corner point. This point is also given because in the graph it was 0, 15, okay? So I know that the third corner point is 0, 15. Now I need to find this point. What are the coordinates of this point? And how to find the coordinate of this points? It could be clear from the graph if your graph is accurate, but see my graph. and it couldn't be. Most of the time it's not clear from the graph. So what to do? Solve the 2 equations together. This is a line and this is a line and this is the intersection point. So in fact, we are solving a system. We have a system which consists of 2 lines. The first line is x plus 4y equals 60, and the second line is 4x plus 2y equals 100. Solve these 2 equations together. You can even use the calculator, or you just multiply the first equation by -4, so you will get -4x, -16y, and -240. And the second equation as it is. Then if you add these 2, you will get 0 here, -16 plus 2, that's -14y. Then -240 plus 100, that's -140. So y would be -140 over -14, that's 10. Put the value of y here in the first equation, so this would be 40. X would be 60 minus 40, so x is 20, or just use the calculator. So this is the proof that the last corner point, 20, x is 20, and y is 10. So it should be this point, 20 and 10. That's the answer of the question, the last question. I hope you enjoyed solving this exam with me.